Do you want me to tell you what God is really like? How did He create everything? And how was the beginning of everything? And how were the multiverses and our universe created? And how were soulmates and twin flames created? Everything I show or tell you will depend solely on you and your soul. If this information resonates with you or touches your heart. And if not, I promise it won't matter, because if it's not, it will be because it's not your time or your hour. Because the truth is not for everyone, as each soul has its own time of learning and evolution. If it's not today, rest assured it will be in another life, because everything is perfect as it is, and everything happens for a reason. Everything has a beginning and an end, so nothing escapes its destiny, which is to return one day to where it came from, where our first Creator lives, the primal source, in other words, the true God. And who is God? God is everything, the supreme source, the supreme consciousness, the highest vibration, the supreme light, everything, because outside of God there is nothing and nothing that is not part of Him. All matter, spirituality, and intelligence, spiritual worlds, material worlds, and the universes of time and non-time are within God and are God. Because outside of God there is nothing, even nothingness is God. And everything within God is alive because God is life. He is absolute love, continuous physical and spiritual creation, our primal creative source. The one source, in other words, God, and that is why He is everything. Given the limit of human understanding, I will try to describe it at least a little. That's why, just this once, I need you to use your imagination and visualize our creative source, whether you call it God, the ether, the one source, or the primal universal source. I ask you to visualize it as if it were a giant sun of bright white light, of pure love energy. Do not imagine it as an old man sitting on a throne, because I assure you he is not like that. He is more than that, he is the supreme consciousness, the absolute love of pure light and love. He is pure vibration of love and creation, he is the totality of life. God is all that exists. So, just this once, visualize Him as a gigantic luminous ball of enormous white light with golden flashes. Because that is what He is made of. He is made of love energy and is the beginning of everything, where everything begins and where everyone will return one day. He is the beginning and the end, the divine essence, the supreme creative consciousness. Being a perfect divine consciousness, one day He decided to experientially know Himself. That is why one day He came up with the crazy idea of dividing Himself into many parts of Himself to experience life experiences. Being the totality of everything, He knew that by dividing Himself, those parts of Himself, being less than the whole, would be the only way He could see the rest of Himself and thus know and experience His magnificent. CE. That is how the empty space and everything unseen of the subtle world of non-time and the dense world of time were created. And that is how everything invisible and visible emerged and everything was created. This is where the famous Big Bang Theory would come in, which was real, but it happened at the beginning of everything when God divided and fragmented into thousands of parts of Himself, fragmented into essences of Himself. But before this happened, the one source first divided into a double of itself, similar to Him, and at the same time created empty space. Then, this double of itself divided into thousands of fragments of itself turned into essences in that empty space, each becoming mini-gods creators of themselves. First, it created the powers, and then these powers continued to fragment and multiply into more essences like them. Each fulfilled a specific function in creation. As these essences multiplied and divided, their frequency decreased and became increasingly less subtle, creating the different worlds that exist, subtle worlds of non-time and dense worlds of time. This is how the different dimensions were created, a total of 33. Dimension 33 is the most important, as it is where our Creator Father resides, the one source, in other words, God. Then follow dimensions 32, 31, 30, and so on. In dimension 10, I want to pause for a moment, as it is also important. When God divided into many more essences, he created many mini-gods creators in this dimension, tasked by God to create each of these mini-gods their own universes apart from ours and thus create the material world. This is how the multiverses were created, because you must know that our universe is not the only one that exists. Now, focus only on this universe, in my universe, because I am the creator of all this universe and everything within me. That is why I am also your creator Father, and once, in your past, I descended directly in spirit and you knew me by the name of Jesus. And that I only descended to your world to experience a life with my creation and to remind humans who they really are and where they truly come from, and to remind them that Daddy lives in each of you, within your hearts literally, and that our Father lovingly granted you immortality in spirit. And when Daddy ordered me to create this material universe, I did the same as him. I divided into a double of myself and continued to fragment, thus creating this universe in a spiritual form and in a material universe, and creating in this material universe its polarity, that is, the masculine energy, which would be all mental energy, and the feminine energy, which would be the energy of love. And then creating the opposite of love, which is fear and dread, thus creating light and darkness, the beginning of Alpha and Omega. And in the same way, the following dimensions were also created, each time more subtle and dense, which would be, the 9th dimension, the 8th dimension, the 7th, the 6th, the 5th, the 4th, until reaching the 3rd dimension. And this is how I created the material universe, the galaxies, all the solar systems, and all the worlds, including our planet Earth. And once my creation was complete, each planet Earth created its own life within it, meaning each creation contributed and played its part in this creation, but all receiving orders from our Creator Father, that is, the one source, in other words, God, thus forming life and all essence. Every living being in my universe and every creation within it is my child and creation as well and is part of me and our Father. And in this way, I created my entire universe, and in the same way, all my other brothers, who were like me, essences and mini-gods creators that came out of my Father, created in the same way, their own universe. And in this way, all these fragmented essences gave life to worlds and spaces of energy, subtle and dense, where time does not exist and yet does exist. And how did God create all the souls? In this topic, I will focus only on the souls of humans from planet Earth, as you are all different and very special, being direct children of Dad, that is, God, my Father, who is also your Father. Once I and my creations created everything, and the time came to create life and all living beings, God, to create the souls of human beings, sent them thousands of fragments of essences of himself to experience, through you, life experiences. However, these fragments of himself had to reduce their frequency, as their divided fragments possessed immense frequency, to reincarnate in their low-density 3D material dimension. And so, these essence fragments divided into numerous or few essence fragments, becoming individual spirits, even dividing into 144 individual spirits. Then, these spirits are placed in an energetic body called soul, giving rise to the famous soulmates. Each of these soulmates has an astral body and a unique personality that will accompany them for the rest of their lives. Once placed in this energetic body called soul, they are then taken to the 4th dimension, where these souls choose where to reincarnate, and where they choose what life experiences they want to have and in what type of family they want to reincarnate, and whom they will meet and be part of their lives. Subsequently, these soulmates are sent to different worlds throughout the universe to live life experiences in different physical realities. Sometimes, and only occasionally, these soulmates can reincarnate together on the same planet. Your soulmate could even be your brother, a friend, or your partner in this current life you are reincarnated in. As for twin flames, the process is a bit different. Because these essences come from higher dimensions and do not come to experience lives, but always come with specific missions in the material worlds. Like soulmates, these essences must also descend from dimension to dimension, lowering their frequency and fragmenting before reaching these lower dimensions. This is because their high frequency could easily destabilize this material world due to the intense light energy they possess. Therefore, They must pass through different dimensions and reduce their energy before reaching these lower dimensions. Then these essences, before reaching the fourth dimension, must be divided into two parts, into feminine energy and masculine energy. They are then placed in an energetic body called soul and sent to the fourth dimension, in the higher plane, and from there, both are sent to the same specific planet, separately, to fulfill specific missions, thus giving rise to twin flames. And yet, the story does not end here because, as above, so below. In the case of common souls, once each soul is created, with its energetic body and unique personality, they have the ability, if they wish, to clone or fragment into multiple mini-souls of themselves, with the same spirit, consciousness, and personality. These mini-souls then separate into different realities and parallel worlds to this reality, allowing them all to experience many parallel lives to ours. In this way, each individual soul and all its clones can learn and experience their lives more. It is important to highlight that human souls, besides being an essential and spiritual part of God, receive God's genetic code, imprinted in their DNA, and the fire of His Spirit, which settles in our hearts and becomes an integral part of our consciousness. When a human awakens and manages to unify and integrate all their light bodies, which they possess in each dimension and are part of each soul, and upon reuniting this soul with all its light bodies from that illusory and temporary separation, made only to experience in this dual and dense world, upon reuniting with their main essence from higher dimensions, these human souls will only then manage to unify and activate their light body and achieve activating their Christic energy that I gifted them and activated through love when I was on your earth. And once each activates their Christic energy in their hearts, this energy will allow them to have a direct connection with our Father, and they may even hear His voice directly in a literal form. Because this gift and present from God was given to accompany them eternally in all our life adventures and become their guide. And this fire of God, even if not activated and not heard directly, in the same way, every human being, that Spirit of God, will always try to communicate with each of you in some way, whether through our consciousness activating their morals and always reminding us of what is right or wrong. In addition to this divine gift that Dad God gave you, humans are also the only ones who, before reincarnating in this material and dual world, where there is light and darkness, make a contract not to remember who they are or where they truly come from before descending to this 3D dimension. This is because their souls have the mission in this dimension to someday remember, activate, and unify all their dimensional light bodies and thus remember their true identity and origin, and remember that they are energy of love and that they come from and are a direct part of God, who is also energy of love, and that they come only to experience and are spirits of love. Each life experience of each one consists of learning to love, give love, support, accompany, and help others, as well as cultivate kindness, generosity, and mercy, and realize that these actions and love are more valuable than hatred or darkness. And remember that our true form is spiritual, composed of energy and light, not our physical form, and to bring light to this physical dual world and balance their light and darkness in each physical body, the yin and yang, and thus radiate only light and love in this material world. But their most important goal as souls is to return someday to the Father, that is, to the kingdom of God located in dimension 33, where God resides. This is the main purpose of everything. Just as one day we departed from Dad God, someday we will return to Him, to the first circle or the first giant sun of white light of love, and this will happen when all these souls have completed their wonderful life adventures. In the meantime, you should know that every human being has the ability to communicate literally and directly with God, without the need for intermediaries, and no temples or churches are necessary to achieve that intimate and direct connection with God if they so desired and feel His presence in every heart and at every moment. Because remember that our Father's Spirit resides and lives in each of their hearts. And nothing is outside or separated from Him because everything is separated only illusorily, because in reality He is everything, and we are all part of Him, and He is part of each of us, and we are all united to Him and are Him and part of Him. That is why we are all brothers, and He is present in all of us and everywhere as essence, energy, and light.